Hello dear viewers, and welcome to this session with us on Everything Catholic. That same program where we discuss anything and everything as long as it is Catholic. In the previous episode, we discussed with you the introductory part of the Sacrament of Penance and Reconciliation, the origin, the meaning, and the effect of that sacrament. Today, we are going to discuss with you the second part of this sacrament. I remain always yours, Reverend Father Boniface Nebo, and Asidua, with my brother and friend.
I am Father Silvanus. Amen. Father Boni, welcome back. Missed you last week.
Yeah, it was really. I couldn't just fix a lot of things and some of the assignments. So
thank you for joining us.
Thank you for joining us. We have with us today to discuss again, to continue the discussion on the Sacrament of Penance and Reconciliation. One who taught me in the seminary, my teacher, my formator, and one of our finest priests in the Archdiocese of Abuja. He is by name Reverend Father Lawrence Tajah. Father, we're glad to have you.
Thank you for having me with us.
Welcome to the program, Father.
Thank you very much.
So it is both a humbling experience for me to have my formator and teacher on set with me in the studio. So Father, thank you for coming. Father is the priest in charge of St. Augustine's Catholic Church, Waru. So Father, we'll begin on this note. Maybe you could try to make us understand what general confession means as opposed to individual and personal confession. Thank you, Father.
Just to begin by admitting what confessions is, as it must have been dealt with in the first part of the episode. It has to do with repentance, contrition, and they anticipate forgiveness from God, reconciliation with God, and reconciliation with one another. Particular confessions is when you check for the time for confessions in your parish and you go there to meet the priest or call the priest to book for an appointment. On the other hand, there are times when a priest will have very little or no option but to give a general absolution to a group of people who are gathered for confessions. They are all gathered there, especially when there is a ceremony that requires the sacrament of reconciliation, as we will have it during Easter. People are encouraged to always go for confessions. So if the priest is alone and the crowd is much and they desire it, at that point he may decide to give what we call general confessions or absolution.
Okay, thank you very much, Father. Now, flowing from this understanding, you have explanations you have given as well. Is it encouraged, therefore, that because of the pastoral reason and necessity to grant this general absolution in this particular context, the faithful encouraged, even after these, to have their personal or particular confession when it's convenient and when they can encounter a priest?
That's quite right. As you call it, it is a pastoral necessity that we need to that. And usually the priest should explain to the people, I'm giving you this to dispose you so that you can receive communion and do other things. Then still dispose yourself of the opportunity to do personal confession. Yeah. Usually they should be encouraged to do that.
Thank you very much, Father.
There seems to be a certain kind of slowness among Catholics to approach this sacrament. And some do not go to confession for months and even years. What could possibly be the reason for this, and how frequently should one go for confession?
As frequently as I'm conscious of any sin I've committed.
Okay.
And take note of this. If I've offended you, I can find it very difficult to come and say I am sorry. So it is part of the human nature to find it difficult to speak about what has gone wrong, that has brought me shame, guilt, and things like that. Okay. As it happens amongst us human beings, so does it happen in our relationship with God sometimes. And it can become really dangerous if one stays too long away from the sacrament. In due course, one may feel it is not important. So that's the danger behind it. But as frequently as I'm conscious of any sin, I need to go to confessions.
So it's like this feeling of shame, kind of. I don't know if I should use the word shame, if it's appropriate.
Kind of guilt.
Shame is part of it, guilt is part of it, and sometimes it can be pride also.
Yes.
Because I feel, I'm not doing anything bigger than all these people around there.
So why do I need to go and tell God I'm sorry?
That is it.
Okay, Father. And priests and bishops are the ministers of the Sacrament of Penance. In a number of instances, I've heard some priests say that it is one of the most difficult sacraments for them to celebrate. What could be the reason why a priest will think of penance as a difficult sacrament? And what should also be the disposition of priests towards the celebration of this sacrament?
Let me just take us back to my brother here who said, look, being here at my lecture is a humbling experience. How humbling is it for a priest, a human being, to feel he's standing for God? It is humbling. It is challenging.
That's why it is difficult.
It is part of it.
Okay.
On the other side, it involves listening. And it's not just listening like listening on the street. You listen to what is said and what is
not
implied.
said.
Exactly.
And then you try to help that person. And remember, it is not your power. It is not so much of your prerogative as such. You have some level of power to it, but whatever you utter is not based on your power, but the power of God working through you. So a priest who is conscious of all of these will know that given the sacrament of confessions is not something we just take for granted. Even though it's possible some of us can take it for granted. But when we think about all of these, we need to listen to the person, and listening can be difficult, but very important. It's an important aspect of the sacrament, to listen to the person and respond to the person with compassion, with love. But sometimes we may also lack that. We may just do it mechanically. So that's why it can be very difficult, and the priest need that disposition too, at all times also. Because if people approach us for confessions, we should be disposed to listen to them. We may not have the physical disposition, but I have to think of what has brought that person to me at that point. Just like God is ready to listen to us at every moment.
Time. I just had an experience yesterday in my parish while I was driving to Veritas. I just got a phone call from a strange number. Sorry, Father, I am your parishioner. I need confession. I say, wow. As I talk to you, I'm on the highway heading somewhere. Okay, say, okay, I don't mind coming. I said, okay, feel free to come by evening. He said, no, I close from work and I'll be back around 10. I said, come. And actually, she made it down. I came down from the room, attended to her. And because my fear was, if I don't have that confession and anything happens to that person, I think the guilt self will not allow me to sleep.
That's great disposition.
So I think that is where the personal disposition. Now, Father, in all of the processes involving confession, there are acts of the penitent. And one of that is satisfaction. And one of the content of satisfaction is doing the penance the priest gives to the penitents to do. Now, for one reason or the other, some persons don't do their penance when they are given. Okay, if this become the case, what is the effect of not doing a penance in the sacrament? Does it invalidate the entire process? Thank you.
Now, this is a very dicey question now, because at the end of the day, God does the forgiveness.
Exactly.
And the other part of it is the disposition and the contrition of the penitent. Now, somebody who does not do carry out the penance, what is the reason? And that is why penitents should be encouraged to also be able to open up themselves to say, because penance should be realistic. Penance should be realistic. That's to say the person is able to carry out the penance, but not also to be taken for granted.
And it shouldn't be too simplistic.
It shouldn't be too simplistic.
Or too difficult.
We have to strike a balance. And that is why the penitent who felt that maybe a particular penance is too much, or maybe is not able to carry it for some reasons, should be able to say it to the priest. because of this, it will be difficult for me to carry this out.
Yes.
And the priest should be able to understand as a compassionate father.
Okay, I would like to draw you back a little on this experience that Father Boniface shared about someone calling him to say, I want confession. That is done, yes, and it is something that as much as possible can encourage for people to make that arrangement if they need to go for confession. But then
I will say something we should accommodate rather than just encourage.
Encourage, okay.
Accommodate,
accommodate, yeah, that's a better thing. Now, Canon 964, paragraph 1 states, and I would like to quote, that the proper place to hear sacramental confession is a church or oratory. And paragraph 3 of that same canon adds explicitly and categorically that confessions are not to be heard outside a confessional without a just cause. But it is sometimes the case that you see Catholics walk up to a priest anytime, any day, anywhere, Father, I want confession. What do you have to say about such a scenario? Sometimes, even while you are driving, somebody just stops you and he wants you to hear his confession right there, right then. But the canon law is saying that there is a proper place to do this thing. What would be your comment on that?
Two things there. First of all, we need to catechize our people to understand these issues regarding the sacraments, each of the sacraments, but especially the sacrament of confession.
Exactly.
We need to catechize them to let them know this is what it should be. It should be done within the parish setting, the church's setting, within the place that has been set for confession.
That's right, yes.
But I take you back to the caveat you made reference to there.
Without a just cause.
Without a just cause. Now, somebody who is meeting me on the road asking for confessions, what is there a just cause? I could ask, is it urgent? Can you meet me in the parish? Can you come for confessions on Saturday or tomorrow and things like that? Now,
you know, sorry for cutting. Some people get offended when you even tell them that. And obviously, there's no reason.
Yeah.
For some, if you are in the parish, it's like a habit. At any time, they just walk up to you like after.
So, by the end of the day, it takes us back with what I started with.
Okay.
We catechize our people. If they are well catechized, they know it. And so when you ask a question, they shouldn't be offended because we have catechized them. We have told them this is the proper thing.
Yeah.
This can only happen in emergencies.
Yeah. Perception.
And that can be a just cause.
Yes.
And then we can
attend to.
So those two things go together.
Okay, Father.
Okay, Father. Now I want to just make a shift a little on, the penitent and confessor's relationship at the confessional.
Yeah.
Now, are there cases of possible abuses, either from the penitent, supposed penitent who has come to the confessional, to the confessor, or the confessor to the penitent? If yes, how possibly can such be addressed carefully?
There is always the possibility of abuses in every relationship that brings people together.
Okay.
Especially when it has to do with one-to-one, one-on-one relationships. It could be from the penitent, it could be from the confessor. Let me start with the penitent. A penitent that will decide to fool a priest in order to be given absolution is abusing the process. A penitent that will threaten or tell a lie, or for whatever reason, cajole the priest to give him absolution is abusing the process.
Okay.
And on the side of the confessor, the confessor can also abuse the process if he begins to develop another relationship in that setting.
Okay.
And it could be the same thing from the side of the penitent also. If the person comes and wants to begin to establish a different kind of relationship in that setting and things like that. It will be an abuse on the part of the confessor if he gets angry and shouts on the penitent and things like that. Takes away the compassion that Jesus will bring to the penitent. That will be an abuse of the process.
Good. This is a very interesting way to hang it there as we proceed on a very, very short break. Go away. It is still Everything Catholic. God bless you.
Everything Catholic, a program that discusses anything and everything about the Catholic Church, faith, doctrines, morals, canon law, church governance, papal documents, you name it. As long as it is Catholic, it shall be discussed. Join Father Ahmed Silvanus and Father Nebo Boniface, two priests passionate about teaching the true faith of the Catholic Church, as they host bishops, priests, religious and distinguished laymen and women to discuss and simplify the wealth of the Church's teachings. Everything Catholic, showing on Catholic television, CTV. Everything Catholic, teaching the faith.
The glory of God is its transformation.
Welcome back. Before we went on that break, we left ourselves with Father answering and responding to the concerns of possible abuses between the penitent and the confessor. Now, Father, in the Sacrament of Penance and Reconciliation, very often when penitents come to confession, these are some cases, rather than call the guilt or the sin by its name, they seem to be romancing words or calling words to describe a particular act. Now, in the process, the confessor is not well informed, and this could affect the need for counseling and guidance. So, in such cases, your words to all of us, please.
Anyway, going to confessions, there is need for clarity.
Good clarity.
There is need to make everything explicit to help the confessor help you.
Yes.
Good.
Now, if I begin to use coded language, like maybe sometimes I will say I did something bad. You do a lot of bad things.
Exactly.
Or someone says, I sinned through my actions.
Through my actions or inactions. You have not said anything. You have come there because you have sinned. It is good to be explicit and be straightforward for your own, and it helps take away the guilt. Because if you tell a lie or try to cover it up, you'll go there with some doubts. Did I say the truth? I'm not receiving forgiveness here. Do I need to go for confessions again? Because you carry back another guilt because you are not straightforward. You know that you are covering up something and things like that. So there is need for the penitent to be very explicit,
clarity,
and to be clear on what he or she is saying, rather than use coded language that can confuse the confessor. And in such cases, the confessor also has a responsibility to ask questions. What do you mean by this? When you say, I did this, what do you mean by this?
Okay, please, just a quick one. When, the confessor begins to ask a question, your words to confessors, please, on the need for caution and to avoid very personal questions, scrutinies into the life of the penitent. Because there may just be a thin line between being focused on doing the needful at the confessional and going beyond that. Okay.
And you're right, I agree with you. Okay. It is easy to cross the line.
Exactly.
But also you have to be thinking of the good of that person.
Exactly.
If not for today, for another time.
Good.
You need to think of the good of the other person, because sometimes it's clear, you are not even sure of what to say because the person has used a language that is not
don't
so
understand
clear and things like that. And in every given situation where there is some bit of covering up or something that is not clear to you, for you to exercise your duties well, you need to seek for clarity. And for your information, the penitent has a right to also seek clarity from you.
Yes.
Exactly.
When you give penance or say some things that are not clear.
Yes.
So in every given situation, there is always the room to seek for clarity.
Perfect.
For the good. No, I shouldn't be thinking of my own good. To just get the information. It's just for the good of the penitent.
Perfect.
But I'd like you to say something about confessional sin. What does it mean and how does it work?
Now, if we are to move it from the confessional, we can be talking about confidentiality. That's to say, somebody confides in you and says something to you, that thing should not be heard outside by a third party. That is what the confession, when we take it to the sacrament, that's what the confessional seal is all about.
What is said in the confessional should not be read by third
unless with the permission of the penitent, who says we can discuss this, even you have no right to begin to talk about the issue after the confessions, unless with the permission of the penitent.
Okay.
Now, in other areas, like in counseling and spiritual direction, if somebody confides in you, and then there is need to do something for the good of that person needs to give you permission to be able to discuss it outside of that setting or with the third
So you
party.
ask the penitent as the confessor. You
Yeah.
ask the penitent
person
for the permission
has-
to talk about it outside of the confession.
Talk about it outside.
Okay, that's
Even if you need counseling, you feel that somebody has said something,
And you
in
have to
case the
follow
person
up.
needs some bit of counseling and you are not able to do it at that moment,
Yes.
you have to seek his permission. Can we meet some other time?
And talk
Do you want us to discuss this? Because we don't have much time. There are people queuing there for confessions.
Exactly.
If you want us to talk more about this, you can
to the
come. And then you can even book an appointment there and there. The person will tell you, Father, I will come next week. I will come tomorrow. I will come next week.
Now, Father, is there the possibility of a confessor withholding absolution from the penitent?
We have no right to withhold absolution. But the point is, if there is clearly no contrition, no ready for change, it means you have not come for confessions.
Yeah.
So if you come, you are boasting about certain things and I say ready to go, I say, but how can I absolve you? You are not ready to forgive. You are still threatening to go and beat up this person. So how will I give you absolution? Absolution comes with contrition. It comes with true repentance. It comes with conversion and change. All those things go together. So if those things are missing, then the process is distorted to a large extent.
You know what you just said played out in one of the parishes I've worked, where a woman came to confession and she's been taking things from her brother, and I noticed that it has been a recurrent thing that she has said in confession, and I got talking to her about it, and she told me, Father, this one I will not stop it too. Since he does not take care of me, this is how I get what I get from him. So she was stealing from the brother, and she was not ready to change. Like, I have to continue this thing. So I had to tell her, it is better to talk with your brother about it than stealing from him, because like it or not, what you are doing is still a sin. So that possibility is actually there for people to do what you just said. But then what about a situation where somebody comes to confession, and as the confessor, you know that what the person has confessed is meant to shut your mouth up as per maybe a crime that has been committed, and possibly no one else knows about it, but you are the only one who knows, and the truth needs to come out, but the person has come to you to tell you in confession so that you won't talk about it. Probably it even affects you directly as a confessor. What do you do?
Because the person trusts in that confessional seal that is binding on you as a confessor, right?
That when he tells you, you will not say it outside, not only because the person is sorry, so to speak, but because the person just wants so that you don't get to talk about it outside.
I think I said something here about if a penitent decides to fool the confessor, or decide to threaten the confessor, or decides to cajole the confessor and things like that, then the process is distorted.
Exactly.
So at that point, you don't, the responsibility is not in your hands. It is in the hands of the penitent, who is not ready to change, or probably has just come to use you. So it's part of the abuse of the sacrament also. And when something is abused, then something goes wrong there. I don't want to use a harsh word on it, but something has gone wrong.
Exactly.
And you may like to talk further with that person. You may like to discuss further with that. He may need counseling to enable him understand that this is not the way to go about some of these issues.
You know, sorry, Father, I need to be explicit on this.
Yeah.
Like, someone commits a crime, for example.
Yeah.
You are the only one who is aware.
Who is aware, okay.
And the person knows that you may likely talk about it. And the person now quickly comes to you in confession to seal your mouth. So that it is like you've heard this in confession.
And the confession,
you can't say it again outside.
not in normal discussion.
You can't say it again outside. But you had knowledge of this even before
The person's coming. Exactly.
Yeah. Anyway, and you see, can you see that the interplay of human relationship comes in here? And you are saying that you knew this before he came. Will you say that to him? Now, this thing you said at confessions. Of course, I will say it to you. Do you know that I'm aware of this before you came? Okay. No persons are aware of it. Are you aware of that? So that you don't think I'm the one that is saying it. Are you aware that more people know about this? I am aware of it before you came. And really like, if he wants me to give an example, I say, go and meet this person and discuss with and ask him about this. So that it does not seem like you have come to put me in a corner. And it's possible you may actually not say it, and other persons may say it, and he will take it that it is you who have said it. And things like that. But as I said also, it's good to engage that person and let the person know this is not where and how to go about this, and things like that.
So what's the implication of violating this confessional seal for the penitent? Now we talk about the essence of the sacrament. And we talk about the salvation of souls. Okay. And we talk about we talk about life. Okay. Now that thing he has done, is it done and dusted with, or are there implications? Is there danger to life? You consider all those things. If there's danger to somebody's life or somebody's good name, you need to make it clear to him. If there's need for reparation or to stop that danger from continuing, you need to make all those things clear, whatever it is.
Thank you very much, Father. Just a very quick and last one. Now we're talking about intentional concealment of a sin by a penitent at the confessional. What will be the implication of this act on the entire process? And what will be your advice to all of us? Because by sin and by fall, we all become and we're encouraged to be truly penitent. It's just by divine grace and special privilege that some become confessors like us. So, what will be your advice against intentional concealment of sin at the confessional?
Anyway, in the first place, to go to confessions, you need to acknowledge the fact that something has gone wrong in your spiritual life, and you need to make it straight. You need to make it straight. I have to also be straight in dealing with it, straight in discussing it, straight in asking for forgiveness. So if there is intentional concealment, then there is no confessions. So, and at that point, it is not the responsibility of the confessor. It is between you and God, because the confessor is standing there for God in the name of Christ. Even though once he utters those words, because they are linked up with the redeeming act of Christ, they go beyond the power of the confessor. It is God that is carrying it out. So at that point, if the person conceals it, he is concealing it from God. Whatever, when you come and say, bless me, Father, for I have sinned. I have sinned against God.
Nobody can hide anything from God.
Thank you very sincerely, Father. That says it all. The need for confession to be entire, to be sincere, to be explicit, contrite, humble, and respectful. So it's been Everything Catholic with your anchor, Priest, Reverend Father Silvanus Ame, and my very humble self. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube page. And of course, for all your questions, concerns, comments, reach us on the numbers showing on the screen. God bless you.
You can reach us through any of the contacts displayed on your screen at the moment. We need to sustain this and get to catechize our Catholics more and more. Reach us, please, if you want to offer a helping hand in this regard. God bless you and see you next week.